Have you ever wondered why, once you turn 70, people gradually begin to disappear from your life? And yet, there are also others your same age who seem to be genuinely joyful and peaceful. They contribute more, smile more, and find deep meaning in simple things. So aren't you just a little curious why? Maybe you've started to notice you no longer feel the urge to visit others like you used to. And let us say this clearly, you're not the only one, and you're not wrong. In fact, there is a quiet wisdom hidden behind this feeling, a truth that few people speak about, but today we're going to talk about it. In this video, we'll explore 6 deeply valid reasons why many older adults begin to withdraw from visiting others after the age of 70. And no, it's not just about sore joints or inconvenience. These reasons go much deeper. They reflect a kind of growth, a shift toward choosing peace over pressure, truth over tradition. This isn't about pushing people away. It's about finally turning inward and honoring the quiet voice within. So if you've ever found yourself thinking, I just don't feel like going anymore, stay with us, because by the end of this video, you may not only understand why, you might even feel proud of that choice. Reason number 1, emotional boundaries. Something strange yet deeply meaningful happens after 70. You begin to feel that conversations and social gatherings, the ones you used to enjoy, now leave you drained. Not just physically tired, but emotionally, mentally, even spiritually exhausted. What once felt like casual conversation now feels like emotional labor. You sit there, listening to others complain, dramatize family matters, or tell endless stories where you barely get a word in. And when it's time to leave, you don't feel lighter, you feel worn out. But is something wrong with you? Absolutely not. This isn't about being old or grumpy. It's about emotional maturity. It's about finally recognizing that your inner peace is sacred, and you're no longer willing to spend your precious time in places that deplete your soul. After 70, your inner world becomes quieter, wiser. Your frequency rises. It becomes gentler, subtler, more refined. And when you're surrounded by people still stuck in cycles of judgment, complaint, or negativity, you feel out of sync. That energetic mismatch drains you. Low vibration, heavy experience. High vibration, light, meaningful experience. This is not weakness, it's wisdom. Let's call it what it is. You're setting emotional boundaries. You begin to filter your presence. Who leaves you feeling peaceful after time together? Who leaves you feeling emotionally empty? You no longer show up where you feel dismissed, unheard, or misunderstood. You choose calm over chaos, support over criticism, deep connection over shallow company. Important truth to remember, not all family ties are healthy ties. Being invited doesn't always mean you're truly welcomed. Showing up out of politeness isn't always the right thing, especially not forever. You have the right and the responsibility to yourself to say goodbye to relationships that hurt your spirit. As the Buddha taught, every time you appear in the wrong place, you accumulate suffering, not just for yourself, but for others. But when you choose uplifting relationships, you're accumulating merit for your soul to rise. There is a shift after 70. You begin to notice just how much energy certain visits take from you. It's not just the body that's tired, it's the mind, the heart, and the soul. Let me offer you a helpful way to reflect on this through the lens of a triangle, 3 points. Physical, body. Is my body trying to tell me it needs rest, not more obligations? Energy, emotions. Does this person energize me or drain me? Information, thoughts, words. What messages am I receiving from this interaction? Do they align with my values and my truth? You see, when you start to shift the way you think about someone by seeing them more compassionately with gratitude, your energy toward them changes too. You feel lighter, freer, and more in tune with what really matters. The kindest action you can take after 70? Not endurance, not forced politeness, but giving yourself permission to walk away from anything that harms your inner world. Not because you fear someone will be upset, but because you've learned to truly love yourself. Because when you're not okay, the first one who feels it is the person sitting right beside you. You no longer pretend to be cheerful. You begin to live in authentic calm. You stop showing up out of duty. You show up where your heart genuinely belongs. And as you come to this realization, you might discover a beautiful truth. The root is within me, but not from me, and not from others either. People show up in our lives to help us graduate from the lessons of this lifetime. And yes, you always have the right to choose. If you'd like this version adapted into a voiceover script with visual cues for video or a shorter version for reels, let me know. So if you've ever felt tired after simply being in a room, not because of age, but because of what that space holds, please know, that's not weakness. That's your inner world asking for respect. You've honored your energy. You've learned to draw emotional boundaries. And now, maybe it's time to ask yourself an even deeper question. If my energy is sacred, what about my time? What if it's not just about who you spend time with, but also how and why you spend it? In the next part of this video, we'll explore reason number 2, the awakening to time capital. Why growing older helps you see time not as what's left, but as your most valuable currency. Stay with us, because your next insight may not just shift how you see time, it might transform how you live the rest of your life. Reason number 2, I've learned to cherish my time capital. Let me ask you something, not as a content creator, but as someone who's walked this path alongside hundreds of people over 70. Have you noticed how different time feels now? Not just faster, but more sacred, more intentional. In our youth, time felt endless. We spent it like spare change on obligations, routines, noise, but now we know the truth. Time is capital. You don't get refunds, you only get to spend it once. And here's something we rarely talk about. Most people spend more time planning a weekend trip than planning how they want to live the next 5 years of their life. Strange, isn't it? Think about this. If you were building a house, would you just start hammering boards together without a blueprint? Of course not. You'd sketch it, measure it, map it out. Because the clearer your plan, the closer you are to making it real. The same goes for life. A written plan doesn't control you, it clarifies you. It helps you translate your inner values into real, visible action. It draws your truth out of your mind and onto the page. And if you haven't written it down yet, what your peace looks like, what your perfect day feels like, what truly matters to you, then maybe you don't know it clearly yet. Write it down, not to impress anyone, not to perform, but to see your soul in ink, because your time is not just something you pass. It's something you direct like a river, and your life, even now, deserves the dignity of design. So I ask you gently, what would your life look like if you planned it with the same care as building a home? What is your blueprint not for what's expected, but for what's true? Tell me in the comments, what's one thing you want to do with your time in the next 12 months, intentionally, soulfully, no matter how small? A garden, a letter, a trip. Let's inspire each other to live with design, not default. Because yes, time is flowing, but you still get to decide, where does it go next? Reason number 3, I've stopped confusing politeness with purpose. Not long ago, I sat down with a man named Harold, 76 years old, widowed, and the kind of person who always did the right thing, even when it quietly wore him down. He looked at me and said, "I'm tired of Sunday lunches." I asked him what he meant. He explained, "Every week I show up, I bring a pie, I smile through the small talk. I sit and nod while everyone else talks about things I don't really connect with anymore. But halfway through the meal, I feel like I'm drifting, like I'm watching myself from the outside." So I asked him gently, "Then why do you keep going?" He paused, looked down, then said, "Because I'm supposed to. They're my family. They'd be disappointed if I didn't show." That phrase supposed to carried so much quiet weight. Not love, not joy, just obligation. So I offered him a simple challenge. Skip just one Sunday. Not out of anger, not to prove a point, just to listen, really listen to what his soul actually wanted. And he did. That Sunday, Harold stayed home. He made himself breakfast slowly, sat by the window and flipped through old photos of his wife. He played a jazz record he hadn't touched in years, and then he picked up the phone and called an old army buddy he hadn't spoken to in over a decade. When we spoke the next week, his voice was different, lighter, more alive. "You know what surprised me?" he said. "When I told my daughter I wouldn't make it to lunch, she said, 'It's okay, Dad. You deserve a Sunday for yourself.' I realized I'd been carrying guilt that no one actually asked me to carry." That's when Harold finally understood something deep. Being present out of pressure isn't presence at all. And saying no doesn't mean you love people less. It simply means you're learning to love yourself more. So now I ask you, what's one invitation you've kept saying yes to, but your heart keeps whispering no? Let's talk about it here, not with blame, but with honesty. Because your purpose is not to perform politeness, it's to live in alignment. And peace, it doesn't always live where you're expected, but it always lives where you choose yourself. You know what surprised me? He said. When I told my daughter I wouldn't make it to lunch, she said, "It's okay, Dad. You deserve a Sunday for yourself." I realized I'd been carrying guilt that no one actually asked me to carry. That's when Harold finally understood something deep. Being present out of pressure isn't presence at all. And saying no doesn't mean you love people less. It simply means you're learning to love yourself more. Learn to guide others in how to love you by the way you love yourself. Sometimes the people around you simply don't understand. So meet them with compassion. Reason number 4. I've learned the difference between loneliness and solitude. There was a time when being alone felt like failure, like something had gone wrong in life, or someone had forgotten you. But solitude, true solitude, is something entirely different. Solitude is not the absence of connection, it's the presence of clarity. You begin to notice things others miss, the way the morning light moves across your kitchen table, the rhythm of your breath when there's no one to entertain, the sound of your own thoughts unfiltered, unhurried. In solitude, you no longer perform. You simply are. Let me tell you what I've learned from working with hundreds of older adults. The loneliest people aren't always those who live alone. Sometimes they're the ones surrounded by others, but never truly seen. Solitude, when chosen, becomes sacred. It becomes a return, not a retreat. You're not withdrawing from life. You're making space for the part of life that doesn't need noise to feel meaningful. And here's a gentle truth I hope you let in. You are allowed to enjoy your own company. You are allowed to sit in silence and not explain it to anyone. You are allowed to feel whole, even without an audience. Because healing doesn't always happen in conversations. Sometimes it happens in stillness, in quiet mornings, in long walks, in the silence between heartbeats where your soul finally says, "Thank you for hearing me." What does solitude look like in your life right now? Is it something you fear or something you're learning to welcome? Let's reflect together below. Because your peace, your quiet, your inner presence is not a gap in life. It's a gift you finally get to unwrap. Reason number 5, I no longer chase approval. One of the most peaceful things that happens after 70 is this: you stop needing people to clap for you. When I was younger, I wanted people to like me. I wanted to be seen, praised, approved. So I tried hard to be impressive in how I looked, what I said, what I did. But now I don't need any of that, because I've lived long enough to know I'm already enough just as I am. I don't need more awards. I don't need everyone to agree with me. And I don't need to explain myself to be okay. I've stopped looking for approval out there because I've finally found peace in here. I wear what makes me feel good. I speak when I have something true to say. And when someone doesn't understand me, I don't argue. I just wish them well and keep walking. Why? Because I'm satisfied with the life I have. I may not have everything, but what I do have I'm deeply grateful for. A roof, a quiet morning, one true friend, my breath, my thoughts, my peace. And that's enough. How about you? What's one thing you're thankful for right now? Something small but meaningful. Let's name it. Because sometimes the quietest kind of confidence comes from simply saying, I'm okay, I'm grateful, I don't need more, to know I already have enough. Reason number 6. I've realized what truly matters, and it's not what I thought. There comes a moment, often after 70, when you stop running. Not because you're exhausted, but because you're finally choosing your own pace. And here's what living long enough to look back teaches you. What matters most isn't what once impressed others, but what fulfills you. Living with intention. A quiet morning cup of tea savored, a walk in nature without any rush, reaching out to someone not because you should, but because your heart says so. Sitting in silence and feeling truly at home in your own life. You begin to take care of yourself first, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. You live with purpose, not with permission. The practice of gratitude. And here's one simple practice that transforms everything. Say thank you to life, to people, to yourself. Science shows that seniors who regularly feel gratitude sleep better, feel less stressed, and even live longer. Small habits, keeping a weekly gratitude journal or noting 3 good things daily, enhance mood, deepen relationships, and lower anxiety. Wikipedia, gratitude also rewires your brain, boosting serotonin and dopamine and strengthening empathy centers, making you happier and more resilient. Tip: start by writing down just 3 things you're grateful for each week. Even weekly practice offers significant, lasting benefits. Positive, owning your story. So yes, you may say no more often. Yes, you might skip some obligations, but what you gain is far greater. You gain freedom to be exactly who you are. You gain peace, not as a reward, but as a choice. You gain confidence in spending your time on what counts. You are not fading. You are finally shining on your own terms. Tell me below, what's one thing you've stopped doing for others and started doing for you? What's a moment, however small, that filled you with gratitude this week? Let's celebrate these choices together, because you deserve every ounce of the peace, clarity, and joy you choose to live now. Maybe we didn't lose anyone. Maybe we finally chose ourselves. When you look back at the friends who drifted, the invitations you declined, the calls you no longer felt obligated to return, you might realize something both simple and bittersweet. You didn't lose them. You just stopped holding on. Because for the first time in your life, you chose yourself. You chose peace over politeness. You chose silence over forced smiles. You chose no with clarity and quiet strength. And if anyone says you've become distant or cold, maybe they never truly knew what it cost to carry a soul that has lived, lost, and learned. So if people begin to disappear from your life, don't rush to mourn it. Maybe they were only meant to be part of earlier chapters. And you finally are stepping into the part of your story where only those who truly see you remain. What do you think? Are we being left behind after 70, or are we finally the ones making intentional choices? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you resonate with this shift, or has your experience been something entirely different?